What if I tell you that your life is not controlled by your luck? Not by your past. But by a single thing. Your thoughts. Sounds simple, right? But this simple thing completely changed one girl's life. She was scared. She was silent. She believed she could never succeed. Until one day, she decided to change the way she thinks. And that decision changed everything. This is the story of Swati. And the real power of positive thinking. Swati stood at the edge of the small hill behind her house, staring at the distant mountains wrapped in mist. The cold wind brushed her face, but inside, she felt something heavier than winter: doubt. People always said, think positive and everything will change. But Swati used to wonder. How? When everything around you feels like it's falling apart. She wasn't born confident. She wasn't the topper of her class, not the most talented, and definitely not the most outspoken. In fact, if you asked her teachers back in school, they would describe her as quiet, average, and lost in her own world. But what no one saw was the storm inside her. Growing up in a small town, Swati often felt invisible. Her classmates would laugh loudly, answer questions confidently, and participate in every activity. Meanwhile, Swati sat in the last bench, afraid to even raise her hand. Whenever she tried, her mind would whisper. What if you're wrong? What if they laugh at you? You're not good enough. And slowly, she started believing it. At home, things weren't much different. Her parents loved her, but they were practical. They wanted her to become something stable, a teacher, maybe. Dreams are fine, her father would say, but life is not a movie. Swati nodded every time, but deep inside, she had a dream. She wanted to do something big. Something meaningful. Something that would make people look at her, not as the quiet girl, but as someone powerful. But the problem was, she didn't believe she could. One day in college, everything changed. There was a presentation competition. Swati had worked really hard on her project. Nights without sleep, endless practice in front of the mirror. For the first time, she thought. Maybe I can do this. But when her turn came, she stood in front of the class, and froze. Her hands trembled. Her voice cracked. Her mind went blank. Laughter echoed in the room. Someone whispered, she can't even speak properly. Another said, why did she even come here? Swati rushed out of the classroom, tears streaming down her face. That day, she sat alone and asked herself. Why am I like this? Why can't I be confident like others? For the first time in her life, she felt completely broken. That evening, while scrolling through her phone, she came across a simple quote. Your mind believes what you tell it. She read it again. And again. Your mind believes what you tell it. Swati realized something shocking. All her life, she had been telling herself. I am not good enough. I will fail. People will laugh at me. And her mind simply believed it. What if she changed that? What if, instead of negative thoughts, she started feeding her mind with positive ones? It sounded simple. Almost too simple. But Swati had nothing to lose. The next morning, she stood in front of the mirror. Her reflection looked unsure, weak, scared. But this time, she said. I am confident. Her mind immediately reacted. No, you're not. She tried again. I can do this. You'll fail again. It felt fake. Forced. Even stupid. But Swati remembered the quote. Your mind believes what you tell it. So she decided, she would keep telling it. Every single day. Days turned into weeks. Swati started practicing positive thinking like a habit. Every morning, I am strong. Before studying, I can understand this. But something subtle was happening. The voice inside her head started getting quieter. That harsh, negative voice that once screamed at her, now whispered. And slowly, a new voice began to grow. A calm, confident voice. A few months later, another opportunity came. A college event. Another presentation. This time, Swati hesitated. Her past failure still haunted her. But then she asked herself. What if I try again, with a different mindset? She signed up. The night before the event, fear returned. Her hands shook again. But instead of running away, she sat quietly and repeated. I am ready. I am capable. I will do my best. She didn't try to eliminate fear. She simply chose, not to let it control her. The stage felt just as terrifying as before. Dozens of eyes staring at her. Silence. Her heart raced. For a second, everything went blank again. But then. She took a deep breath. And said softly in her mind. I am not the same girl anymore. She began speaking. Slowly. Carefully. Not perfect, but steady. There were no laughs this time. People listened. And as she continued, something incredible happened. Her confidence grew, sentence by sentence. By the end, the room filled with applause. Not because she was perfect. But because she was real. And strong. And brave. Swati didn't win first prize that day. But she won something far more important. She won over her own mind. She proved to herself that she could change. That she could grow. That she was never not enough, she just believed she was. From that day on, Swati's life slowly transformed. She started speaking more confidently. Taking new challenges. Helping others who felt like she once did. People began noticing her. Swati, you've changed so much. You're so confident now. How did you do it? She would smile and say. I just changed the way I think. Years later, Swati stood on a much bigger stage. Not as a nervous student. But as a speaker. Looking at a crowd full of young girls, she said. I was once the girl who couldn't even speak in front of 10 people. I believed I was weak. I believed I would fail. And that belief became my reality. She paused, and smiled. But one day, I learned something powerful. Your mind is like a mirror. It reflects what you show it. If you show it fear, it will give you more fear. If you show it confidence, it will build your strength. The audience listened silently. Positive thinking doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means you become stronger. Swati's story is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming aware. Aware of your thoughts. Aware of your inner voice. Aware of the power you already have. Because the truth is, you don't become what the world says. You become what your mind believes. So if you want to change your life, start by changing your thoughts. Moral of the story. Positive thinking is not magic, but it is powerful enough to change your entire life. So tell me. What are you telling yourself every day? Are you feeding your mind with fear? Or with confidence? Because your future depends on it. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And start your journey of positive thinking today. Because your story can be even more powerful than Swati's.